Greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to another exciting Mindcraft discussion on this beautiful day. I like to describe for people. I'm on my back deck now, northern Vermont, and it's summer with Vermont. That we have gorgeous summers. Doesn't generally get too hot. I'm looking at the goats. Giovanni's right next to me, and it's just the goats are just eating the hay and lounging around, and it's nice and slow, and I can get some podcasting done. So just enjoying it, just 100% enjoying it. So, last time, our last conversation on essentialism was, sort of the basic gist. And the book Essentialism is by Greg McKeown, also the author of Effortless. Essentialism was first, and he got super well known for that. And then I think he said he was even referred as the father of essentialism or something like that. He's just really, really outstanding. And so, as I mentioned before, I'm like a grasshopper. I'm my white belt, maybe two blue stripes. That's about as far as I've gotten. And really, you know, uh, choosing each and every day, not even for the whole day, but I've been doing it in segments. Just no time, no looking at watches or phones or anything like that. Just when I'm ready to have a conversation, or I'm going on a walk with one of our kids, our young adult kids, or I'm on a phone conversation with one of our kids, and in this moment, this is the only thing that's important to me, nothing else. And it's just and I at my core I'm like that anyway. But I think if I'm honest, it's easy to, especially in this media, it's easy to be on the phone and get the dinner going at the same time, that sort of thing. So you're listening, but and so now I'm just not, I'm just trying to trim the fat, kind of really just hone in on exactly one thing. That's it, which in reality is all the brain can do anyway. People say they're great multitaskers. Oh, I'm such a good multitasker. No, you're not, because that's a myth. The brain is only wired to do one thing at a time. That's it, no more, no less. And so it looks like multitasking is really just a quick shift in attention. So we may as well hone in on that one thing, that conversation, that meaningful person in front of you, walking the dog for a walk and walking. What am I trying to say? Take the dog for a walk and be mindful and be in the woods. Listen to the woodpeckers. Be in the shower. Whatever it is, bring success to it. So last time, so Greg McCowan says if you allow yourself to fully embrace essentialism, to really live it in everything you do, whether at home or at work, it can become a part of the way you see and understand the world. It's 100% true, because I'm doing it right now. You can change your thinking so deeply that the practices of essentialism we have discussed and many others you will develop become natural and instinctive. Okay, now that's from a cognitive psychological point. Greg is spot on, because the brain loves patterns. The brain loves to rehearse. The neurons in the brain love to rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. That can be in our favor or not in our favor, because the brain loves patterns. And what we practice or rehearse, we inevitably get better at, regardless of what it is. It's playing the guitar, cooking, snowboarding, whatever. So rehearsing or practicing being an essentialist is going to train the brain naturally. And after about 21 days, and it's about the time a new habit will shift and stick, and we'll start to look for in our day, well, just like we seek out with a gratitude journal. I've used that before. We start, just like the Tetris effect, we start to seek out, when we're doing a gratitude journal daily, that we'll naturally seek out the positive in the day. Well, when we practice essentialism, we will naturally seek out what is important in the day. I mean, hour by hour, minute by minute, no time frames. Just when you come up, uh, you know, when something's in front of you, whether it's a conversation, it's making lunch, it's eating dinner, it's a walk, all your work stuff. Bring success to the meeting, bring success to the project you're presenting, whatever. But in that minute, that's the essential thing. In that minute, there could only be, or that hour, one essential thing. So focus on it and bring success to it. So, and Greg in the last video talked about, how we make transformations in the mind. And the Greeks had a word called metatonia, which was, thinking with your heart, and how just what we're saying, that the essentialism and happiness, you can say, and gratitude and things like that can become, or work it all into the happiness, the umbrella of the happiness lifestyle. Let's just say that. And Greg says that once you become an essentialist, you will find that you aren't like everybody else. When other people are saying yes, you will find yourself saying no. When other people are doing, you will find yourself thinking. When other people are speaking, you will find yourself listening. When other people are in the spotlight, vying for attention, you will find yourself waiting on the sidelines until it is time to shine. While other people are padding their resumes and building out their LinkedIn profiles, you'll be building a career of meaning. Oh, I love that. See, because I think what many people don't realize, and it is tempting because I mean, I have a presence on social media too, though I do limit it every day. It's a very small window, actually. I upload things, but I don't stay there and watch them do it. I go do something else. Um, how important it is to really focus on the meaning, because when I forget who wrote the book, but you do what you love and the money will follow. It's back in the 80s or 70s, somewhere in that range. Do what you love and the money will follow. So we're following our passion, which leads us, right? Just wraps around the meaning and purpose. Everything else falls into place. So it makes sense to put the focus there, right? And obviously, wherever the focus goes, the energy flows. That's a Tony Robbins saying. So wherever we place our focus is where the energy goes, and it's what's going to be successful. Whatever it is that's in front of you, whether it's a meeting or it's a relationship thing, you're having dinner with your partner, whatever in that moment, rather than splintering yourself off, which was what so many of us end up doing, and it's just not meaningful. And it's not a good use of our life minutes. So anyway, he says, while other people are complaining, he says, bragging about how busy they are, you will just be smiling sympathetically, unable to relate. While other people are living a life of stress and chaos, you'll be living a life of impact and fulfillment. In many ways, to live as an essentialist is in our too many things all the time society. Let's say that again. Our too many things all the time society is an act of quiet revolution. I'll tell you, isn't that the truth? And if we're thinking of the workplace right now, I'm actually thinking I have a Psychology Today article in me, because I think it is, at least in the workplace, it is a revolution, because I wrote an article sometime last year, I forget when, on quietly quitting, and I'm seeing an evolution for now. Just having a talk with a colleague yesterday about it, actually, quietly quitting, it's kind of evolved into sleepwalking in the workplace. It's like this resolve of, and it's kind of like, I don't know if it's passive resistance, or because people are just done with the chaos and the doing too much, and often not being appreciated for doing too much. And kind of like that example that Greg starts his book off with, a guy, Patrick McGinnis, working 80 hours a week, and classic case of workaholism, 80 hours a week, go, 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 and was not seeing his family or engaging in his life or having fun. He was miserable, ended up having heart issues. And then the company he was doing all that for went under, belly up. And like, for what? It was all in vain. And then he had, of course, a life changing minute. And it all sort of came together. He was pointed in a new direction. So Greg kind of explains to us that living as an essentialist isn't always easy. And he talks about how he struggles with it himself. And he's sort of honest about instinctively wanting to please people when they ask him to do something. And he says even something that isn't necessarily, or to say it is non-essential. So he says, when presented with opportunities, especially good opportunities, I still fall into thinking I can do both when really I can't. I still fight the urge to impulsively check my phone on my worst days. On my worst days, I've wondered if my tombstone will read, he checked email. So true. I'll be the first to admit the transition doesn't happen overnight. And that's what I'm kind of being honest about, too. And, um, there's another book out there about, I think it's called The 4 Minute Work Week. I'm not looking at it, so don't quote me. But it was specifically with the email thing, when I was telling you about myself, when I'm in the creative mode, creating workshops for Champlain or presentation to parents or whatever, I've had to learn to set a timer. I mean, I don't actually put an alarm in any, on my phone, because kind of contradictory, right? It wouldn't make any sense. But I mentally say, I'm going to stay in my creative mode until, roughly this time, or let's say lunch or whatever. Then I'll look at my email. And the 4 Minute Work Week guy, if that's the name of the book, that was one of his biggest tips to only check email twice a day. Pick a time in the morning and have an end to it. Can't be like, 7:30 and then leave it alone. It's like from 7:30 to 7:45, or maybe if you got a really busy job, 8 o'clock, and then again at 5 o'clock or whatever. But no, then he does not check in the middle. I think that's awesome. So the transition does not happen overnight. The email tips are good. Email tips are good ones, though, I'd have to say. And then he says, still over time, I found it gets easier and easier. Saying no feels uncomfortable. Sorry, saying feel no feels less uncomfortable. Decisions get much clearer. That's what I kind of need. Um, I can definitely say no. I mean, I didn't say it as easily in my 20s or 30s for sure, but I can say no now. Decisions getting clearer still can still benefit me, because sometimes they seem, just like he was saying, this seems like such a good idea. Like maybe it's in my wheelhouse. Like I love it, but just because you love it, if you have three other things going on that are huge at the same time, you're gonna end up doing a half-assed job at something, or maybe even all of it. Doesn't make so we got to say no to stuff that's good if our plate's already full. He says eliminating the non-essentials becomes more natural and instinctive. I hope so. He says, I feel greater control of my choices to the point that my life is different. If you open your heart and mind to embrace essentialism fully, these things will become true for you as well. I love that. So, I mean, basically, it's just one big lesson on prioritizing. I think, I want to say time management, but it's actually transcends time management. It is managing your time. But I think because it manages time in a way that's better than a lot of I remember when I was in college way back when dinosaurs roamed. We were made to go to a time management workshop by our cross country coach, who I loved. Everybody loved him, and it was a good thing to make mandatory, actually. And they gave you walked in, they gave you these sheets with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and also the weekends, and you put in all your you have practice classes, put in everything. Then you saw the little time spots left over, and that's a very pragmatic way to do things. I think, and would work for first years, of course. um, I think that a blend of this for them would still be good, though, because Greg McGowan's essentialism, his time management, that's more emotional and spiritual. I mean, it's prioritizing with your heart versus by deciding what's of utmost importance, and there is only one thing when I'm having lunch with my partner, whatever, versus the spreadsheet thing. Not spreadsheet, but you know what I mean, like a worksheet to fill it in. This is just got the deep level of meaning that I'm just finding very, very helpful in my own life. So I think what Greg is saying, and I know just from the short time. I don't know, I'm trying to think when I first read the book. It was maybe 6 months. Excuse me, 6 months ago, or maybe a little longer, but a little bit less than a year anyway. And the first, just like anything, when you first start, it feels like deliberate and planned and very, calculated. And so those first two, the first two, three, four, whatever decisions where you have to say no can feel like you're pulling a molar, and then it gets easier, and not just the things you actually have to say no to people, but just in your day when you're deciding, privately in your head. Okay, and like I said with the email thing, you can be tempted to just you dip back in there in the middle of a really boring Zoom meeting. Although I have to say I haven't mastered that one, because I tend to dip out of the boring Zoom meetings. But the point is, it like anything, it takes practice, and it feels like a little bit of an uphill push at first, but it does get easier. And then Greg McGowan says like how it grew into his lifestyle, and it is for me right now too. And he said then it changed me at my very core. He said, I continue to discover almost daily that I can do less and less in order to contribute more. I also like he uses the word contribution or contribute a lot. I like how he just uses the word, because that is we're all walking on the planet contributing, right? From our minds and our hearts. And when our attention is splintered off like that, our ability to contribute authentically is significantly diminished. And so I'm just going to rattle off a few things that he does. What an essentialist means to me is best illustrated by the little moments. And I know I just barely in between this episode, because I saw that it was our daughter down in Florida. We just had a baby, so if it were somebody less essential, I truthfully would have ignored it and called them back. But I jumped off here quickly, and because she was essential, and we were on the phone. Thankfully, everything was okay. She was just wanting. Baby was napping. She just wanted to socialize, miss his home, and just wanted to talk to me. And so that literally happened. Making this episode. So I switched out of this essential because she became essential. Again, if that would have been, I don't know, some other less important situation, I would have ignored it and finished the podcast and called the person back. So he says, choosing to wrestle with my children on the trampoline instead of going to a networking event. Oh, absolutely. Choosing to say no to international client work for the last year in order to write. That's a big decision. That had to be hard, because you're losing. Obviously, you're not making that money if you're choosing to write, and I can really identify with that because I love to write, and how hard that would be to say no to that. He writes, choosing to set aside a day each week where I don't check any social media so I can be fully present at home. Now, that is a really good one. How many of us could do that for a whole day? He says, choosing to spend 8 months getting up at 5 a.m. every morning and writing till 1 p.m. in order to finish this book. I love that. That is something I do, not for 5 hours, but I get up early and get it done when the house is quiet, definitely. And he says, choosing to push back a work deadline in order to go camping with my children, totally. Choosing not to watch any television or movies when traveling for business, so there's time to think and rest. Also a good choice. Personally, that's a wind down for me. I guess it depends what I'm doing. But if I go and speak someplace, I am brain fried toast. And watching something mindless, definitely not the news. But I Love Lucy or some funny chick flick. That kind of unwinds me. But I guess to each their own. To regularly spend the whole day as a choosing to regularly spend a whole day on that day's priority. That's what we were talking about. Even if it means doing nothing else on my to-do list. And I think I mentioned earlier, when I do talks on things similar to this, self-care and things like that, I put up a slide that says create a not to-do list. And the professionals, they crack up. And they're all trying to write it down and everything. I said, really, it's not that hard. There is something in your day. This is like beginning essentialism. Pick one thing out of your day that can just plain go. Definitely you can cut your emails in half. You can not do the laundry. You can not do the dishes. There's definitely at least one thing you can not do, and it saves life minutes. It adds life minutes to this day. There's definitely something that can go. He's got a few more, like reading a novel right now. These aren't novels that I'm reading, but I love to read books like this, actually, personal growth. And he says, choosing not to read, this can go either way, choosing not to read a novel, or I'm just saying like essentialism or effortless, because it's just not a priority for that day. And then, tomorrow, it might be other things are non-essential. And what's most important to me for the next half an hour is I did this today, actually, or it was yesterday, 30 minutes to just read. 30 minutes to just read. And also, I'm brushing up on my Italian, and I've done the same thing with that. For the next 20 minutes, that's all it takes for these little lessons. For the next 20 minutes, I'm not going to answer the phone unless it's one of my young adults, and I can say, I'm not going to answer the phone. I'm not going to answer email. I'm going to do my Italian. I'm not going to fold the laundry if I'm remote, or if I'm at work on lunch. I go outside in the courtyard. We have a gorgeous campus, and I'm going to do that for 20 minutes, and nothing's going to interrupt me. Choosing to say no to a speaking opportunity in order to have a date with your partner. Of course. Choosing to write in a journal nearly every day. And he said for the last 10 years, I don't even know how long I've been writing my gratitude journal. I finished a bunch of them because, eventually, and I just keep them all underneath my dresser. And, that is my number one priority when I wake up, after I say thank you when I'm still in bed. Thank you, feet hit the floor, gratitude journal, tea, and then I do other things. I don't check my phone or do anything else until I check my gratitude journal. And then he's got a bunch of other ones, and you can just fill in whatever that is for you. But the list goes on. But the point I want to make here is that focusing on essentials is a choice. It's your choice. That in itself is incredibly liberating. And I'll tell you, I do this a lot in Minecraft. I'm talking about happiness. Happiness is a choice. People, I think, often don't realize. I mean, if we say it, they get it. But, we are the captains of our own ship. Even when they say, oh, I can't do that, I'm too busy. Okay, well, you're too busy. Who's in charge of your schedule? Because no one else is, just you. So an essentialist would just polite say, they probably would not say they're too busy, right? They would just answer and politely decline. And so that's what we're saying. It's all a choice. The essentials you choose, hour by hour or half hour or whatever throughout the day are yours to choose. Whether you're happy is also your choice. And that's it. So the Way of the Essentialist Part 2. That was so much fun. Thank you for listening. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the about to thunder northern thunderstorm northern Vermont. Have a mindful, very essential day.